But we'll go ahead and move on to the last Monday. This is not a head-to-head, so WCW should have zero trouble winning this week. There's no Raw for the next 2 Mondays, actually. The next 2 weeks are Raw or taken over by a tennis tournament. But yes, one of the weeks we will have a Friday Raw, but we'll cover that when we get there. But for this opening match for Nitro, we have the debut of Juventud Guerrera, and he is going against Billy Kidman. Giovanni notes that Juventud is only 21 years old during this match. Yeah, that kind of hurt a little bit. But for the match, Juventud does a powerbomb to Kidman on the outside, and then he hits a cool-looking, I don't know what the names, because I'm not Mike Tenay, but like a corkscrew plunger type move on Kidman. And then later on in the match, Billy Kidman hits the shooting star press before 2 count. Remember, he's still a jobber. He's not winning matches with that yet. And he signals that he's going for another one, but Juventud meets Kidman up on the top turnbuckle, and he hits a top rope hurricanrana for the win. But this was a quick match where Juventud got to show off some of his impressive moves.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see some of the mainstays of the Cruiserweight division starting to come here. We have Rey Mysterio, Psychosis, Juventud, Kidman's here, Dean Malenko. So we're starting to get that.
Starting to get some names. Did you say La Parca?
Oh, sorry, I forgot La Parca. Not Super Callow.
Absolutely not. Him or Cyclope? No.
No. But then after the match, we do have an in-ring interview with Juventud. Gene mentions an injury to Psychosis, and now because of that, Juventud has a shot at Conan's Mexican heavyweight title. Juventud starts his promo speaking in Spanish, and he keeps messing with his mask. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe he's getting in his mouth or something. I don't know. But then he resumes speaking in English, and he says he is the best Mexican wrestler. The crowd booed Juventud throughout the whole promo.
I know, right?
It's probably because he was speaking Spanish.
It's probably because he's speaking Spanish, yeah.
But the ending to this promo is kind of funny because Gene cuts Juventud off completely.
That was a little rude, honestly.
He's essentially like, tell it to someone who cares.
Yeah.
So there was an awkward ending to the promo, but the promo was going nowhere, I will say that. But
I think even Gene said that he was having a tough time. I think Gene saw that he was struggling with that promo.
So we're not going to be too harsh, but we'll move on to the second match for Nitro. It is Marcus Bagwell and Jim Powers with Teddy Long versus Kevin Sullivan and Big Bubba with Jimmy Hart. The announcers tell us that Scotty Riggs is injured and Powers will be Bagwell's partner today. I don't know if Riggs was actually hurt. I looked it up. I couldn't find any information on it. If he did, it must have been a minor injury because he's not gone that long. During this match, the announcers go overboard, I think, on commentary, talking about how dangerous Kevin Sullivan is. They're still really trying to build this Dungeon of Doom to be, a threat to the NWO, and Horseman is not really working for me.
I'm not buying it.
But once again this week, Sullivan gets a good response from the crowd, so it's working with some people. And they are really building the Trio Woe spot. The announcers and the TV is presenting this as this is a major move rather than just
because it's one of the few things that Sullivan does. So it's they're just glad something's finally happening.
But I will mention for this match, Nick Patrick is a referee, and I mention that because Jim Powers gets a crossbody on Bubba, and he gets it for a 3 count. But Nick Patrick restarts the match saying Bubba got his shoulder up, and then Bubba hits his side slam on Jim Powers for the win. And then after the match, Bagwell, Teddy Long, and Powers argue with Nick Patrick, and Teddy Long tells Nick Patrick that he blew the call. So we're still building towards this Nick Patrick. Is he a good ref? Is he a bad ref? We're doing that for another week. And now we're also building some beef between Teddy Long and Nick Patrick.
Yeah, that's good. I thought Nick Patrick's acting during this was pretty good too.
Yeah, I would say they did get me on this because when Jim Powers initially got the 3 count, I was like, holy shit, he actually won a match.
I know, right?
So yeah, but then they pulled the rug out and then did that. I'm fine with it. They're doing the whole Nick Patrick thing. I don't mind Jim Powers, but he's clearly not going to be anything worth building, you know what I'm saying? So it's fine. But after the match, we do have an in-ring interview with Kevin Sullivan, Big Bubba, and Jimmy Hart. Bubba talks about this being another victory for the Dungeon, and he says they should be getting all the title shots and the main events, and they will not be overlooked anymore. Bubba says for months he has heard of this Glacier character, and he challenged him to a match. Will we finally get Glacier in a match? Holy shit. Jimmy Hart tells Glacier that when he comes to WCW, the only thing running is going to be him. Kevin Sullivan's turn comes up and he says that if everyone listened to him a year ago, this Hogan problem wouldn't be happening. Sullivan says he saw Gene with Hogan last week. Uh-oh, you didn't do that, did you, Gene? Gene says that wasn't him. It was Eric Bischoff. I was like, holy shit. That's pretty interesting. But how would you get the two confused there?
How can you get someone balding like that with Eric Bischoff?
Yeah. Sullivan says he knows Eric Bischoff, and it wasn't him. He said the guy had a bald head. Sullivan then addresses the 4 horsemen, and he says if the horsemen think they are the last defense against the NWO, then they are mistaken. I was surprised that there wasn't much more to the suggestion of Eric Bischoff. They kind of like moved on very quickly from that.
They were just dropping a little nugget.
But a week or two ago, we had Eric Bischoff missed Nitro because of a business meeting, and now he supposedly was seen with Hogan. There's probably nothing to that. We shouldn't worry about that. It's probably hearsay. But we finally do get somewhat of a concrete timeline for Glacier to finally show up. So at least we got that going for us. All you Glacier fans out there, he is coming. Next, we have a backstage interview with Lex Luger and Sting. Gene asked Lex Luger about the challenges from Mongo and Benoit last week. Mongo and Benoit have rethought their proposal from last week where they gave Luger and Sting their spots. They want to have a match with them this week to settle it, and the winner would then go to join them in War Games against NWO, which I thought was weird. Like, you just had that last week, and then the next week, you're like, no. So I don't like that. But Gene asked Luger about that challenge from Mongo and Benoit tonight. Luger says they thought they had everything figured out with the Horsemen, but then Mongo and Benoit wanted to challenge them to see if they deserved to be in the match. Sting and Luger accept the challenge, and Sting says there are no guarantees since last week. Everything was cool, and he mentions Ric Flair and Arn even asking Mongo and Benoit right in front of everyone in the world if it was fine, and they said it was. So the character's not looking good for Mongo and Benoit in this segment, I will say.
No.
Sting then says that the Horsemen don't trust them, which probably don't, and then Sting tells Flair to never question their intestinal fortitude, and Luger says they staked their career on never backing down from a challenge, and they will not back down tonight. I do like the idea of them going against Mongo and Benoit to prove themselves, but I feel like they skipped a few steps to get to this point.
Yeah. It just seems like Mongo and Benoit are jealous that they got the spot.
Yeah. But also a note is Sting was talking about trust during this promo, and you might want to pay attention when Sting starts talking about trust. That's going to be a key theme with him here soon. But we'll see where that goes. But for the third match, we have Mike Enos with Dick Slater versus Chavo Guerrero. Conan is seen watching the match, and now he is finally wearing his more well-known attire, and the announcers continue to talk about Conan's changed attitude. But for the match, we see Enos go for a powerbomb, but Chavo awkwardly reverses it, and he lands on his leg. It's very weird.
Yeah, it's sloppy. It looks sloppy.
Another point in contention for me, Chavo puts on the figure four on Mike Enos during this match. Who doesn't do the figure four in WCW?
I know,
what
right?
the fuck?
Everybody does it.
It's like the super kick now. Like, holy crap. Mike Enos thumbs the ref in the eye, and Dick Slater comes in and he elbows Chavo. Yeah, this is when Slater takes a spot in the ring.
Yeah, they try to do like the Bella Twins twin magic. Yeah, but I'm like, they don't look nothing alike.
Yeah, Slater rolls Enos out of the ring, and then he hits a spinning neckbreaker on Chavo, and then he goes to put on a figure four onto Chavo, but Chavo reverses it for the pin, and the ref counts to 3, even though Mike Enos clearly wasn't in the ring. The announcers are trying to say that the ref couldn't see Slater, but after Chavo releases the hold, shouldn't he see clearly?
I know, right?
Then
they should be like, oh, no, the match isn't over. Yeah,
and I'm sorry, there's not 2 people in the planet that look like Dick Slater.
No, no, he has one of one.
So that was just a dumb ending. You could just have Chavo win the match without the bullshit ending. He faced Mike Enos.
Yeah, it's Mike Enos.
Yeah, they didn't need to do that. It seemed like WCW was afraid to commit. I don't know. We do have an interview with Chavo. Chavo calls Diamond Dallas Page a coward, and he asks where is he at. Chavo says he beat DDP last week, and DDP couldn't take it.
Chavo's voice sounds so unintimidating.
Yeah.
It's basically like, I'm going to beat you up, Mr. Tough Guy.
Yeah, essentially he says that someone is going to teach DDP how to lose with respect, and he is that person, and he can't wait to face him at Fall Brawl. And Chavo was not great here. I think he got better in WWE with the promos and everything, but he's not good here. And now we will go to our fourth match, and it is Mr. JL, who I don't think we've seen for a while, versus Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, and now he's not Mr. JL. He's just JL now.
Oh, I do apologize. He dropped that. Didn't want to be called his father's name. I get it. But this is for the Cruiserweight title. How did JL get a Cruiserweight title match? Who knows? But during this match, we go backstage where we see Hogan is bringing someone with a light crew over to the TBS truck, and Hogan spray paints NWO on the side of the truck. A very famous moment. There's also a meme with it.
Very famous meme.
I'm not going to explain the meaning of the meme, but it's funny.
Open to interpretation.
Yes. Shivani is pissed that Hogan did this. He acts like he just did something just really despicable. But also during this match, we see Malenko watching the match at the entranceway, and eventually Rey Mysterio notices him, and he tells Malenko to come on down to the ring, but Malenko doesn't. But the finish is Rey Mysterio wins with what will be known as a West Coast Pop. I don't know what they call it in WCW. It wasn't his smoothest one either, but he wins with that. But for this match, I thought it was fine. It probably would have been better if we had any reason to care about JL. But I am looking forward to the Malenko Mysterio rematch. But then we'll go on to the backstage interview with Chris Benoit and Mongo McMichael. Mongo says they demanded the match, and he says in hindsight, it should be them teaming with Flair and Arn. And Benoit says that they didn't relinquish their spots. That decision was up to Flair and Arn, and tonight is not about vengeance or envy. Tonight is about security, not only to the Horsemen, but to the WCW. Benoit tells Sting and Lex Luger to look into his eyes and see the hungry beast. He says he doesn't see that same hunger in Sting and Luger anymore. He's calling them out.
What did you Benoit?
He's trying to say they ain't got that dog in him no more. But then we also have another backstage interview segment, and this is with the Macho Man. Macho Man says he is quiet but deadly right now, and at Halloween Havoc, it will be his day. And he tells Hogan it is going to be the scariest match of the century. And he has an awkward pause in the middle of this before continuing on. And then Mean Gene asks Macho Man about facing the Giant at Fall Brawl. And then Macho Man says he's going to bolt right through the Giant. Macho Man's got a full plate here, Jay. He's got Giant at Fall Brawl and then Hogan at Halloween Havoc. He's got a full plate.
He's got full meals ready for him.
But we'll go to our fifth match of the night, and it is Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus the Giant with Jimmy Hart. During this match, Ted DiBiase is seen walking through the crowd, and he's causing quite the distraction. And this happens as Hacksaw Jim Duggan takes up his fist and he punches the Giant, but it has no effect on him. So he puts on more tape, and then he punches the Giant, who staggers ever so slightly this time. Jimmy Hart jumps on the apron, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan disposes of Jimmy Hart, but then the Giant chokeslams Duggan for the win. The match was a quick squash match. It was all about the Ted DiBiase moment.
And then after the match, DiBiase shows 4 fingers and then he does 5. So
I would say that Ted DiBiase already feels like a much bigger deal than he did in WWF.
Oh, for sure, because that ruined DiBiase for years.
Yeah. Now I actually give a shit what you're doing.
And now they have their billionaire Ted.
Yeah, exactly right. So Ted DiBiase is the 4th man. He says next week it will be 5. So we are teasing another man yet to come. So that's interesting. That's really the only thing to take away from that. But we got a ramp interview with the Giant. The Giant says he can hardly talk. He is so shocked. He says that Macho Man wants to blame the Giant for failing WCW. But where is Macho Man? When he said that, I was like, one, y'all bartered a deal, or at least WCW had a deal with Macho Man that told him not to show up because he said he was going to kill Hogan. So that's why. So they explained that. So were you not listening there, Giant?
He wasn't paying attention.
He says Macho Man was scared and he can't get the job done. And then he tells Macho Man he is not going to Halloween Havoc to face Hogan because it is going to be the Giant who faces Hogan because he is going to be the World Heavyweight Champion. And he tells Macho Man wherever Macho Man goes, he will be there. Not a bad promo for Giant. He did feel threatening to Macho Man, like he wasn't playing around. I was actually looking forward to the match at Fall Brawl.
Yeah.
But then our 6th match, we got the Rock and Roll Express versus Arn Anderson and Ric Flair with Woman and Miss Elizabeth. I feel like this is the 3rd or 4th time we've seen this.
Yes.
So I'll skip to
and all the matches end the same.
Yeah, exactly. The ending is Arn DDTs Morton behind the ref's back, and Ric Flair pins him for the win. My only thoughts during this match were WCW should have saved their money and not signed the Rock and Roll Express. I'm not trying to be so mean to the Rock and Roll Express, but this is...
They just don't fit in this era.
Yeah, exactly. It's like with Greg Valentine. Like, that's not happening now. So after the match, we do have an interview with Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. Arn says the hourglass has been turned over and the sand is about to run out on the NWO. He tells the NWO that this will be their first and last War Games match. And after this, we won't see the Outsiders anymore. Flair tells Hogan to look into his eyes, and he tells Hogan that at Clash of Champions, he gave up. Because remember, he grabbed the referee to get the DQ. Ric Flair then tells the NWO to get ready because at War Games, they are in Horseman country. But after this chick, we have a Glacier video. It doesn't have a date on it, though, so we don't know exactly yet when it's coming, but we do know for sure that he is coming. Before our 7th match of the night, we have Chris Jericho versus Alex Wright. This is Chris Jericho's first match on Nitro, so that was interesting. We have 2 debuts on this show. Alex Wright tries to jump on Jericho on the outside, but he catches some of the guardrail. Jericho rolls back into the ring, and the ref is about to count to 10, but Jericho tells the ref he doesn't want to win this way, and the ref throws out the match. I thought this was a bullshit, and like,
I didn't like that.
But they're trying to show that he's just such a sportsman.
He doesn't want to win this, right? It's like, does anybody ever like a character like this? No, everybody hates baby faces like this.
Yeah, this has never gotten over, so I didn't care for it. This was not a good debut for Chris Jericho.
No.
But then after that, we have an interview with Chris Jericho. Jericho says he came to WCW to fight to the best of his ability, and to accept a victory this way is not in his best of ability. Whatever, Jericho. He says he knows that somebody Wood, though, and he says Hulk Hogan and the NWO would, just calling out their manhoods all over the place here. Jericho says he and Alex Wright are going to fight with all their hearts for WCW. Yeah, this is kind of a nothing promo, nothing match. So again, not great debut here.
I like when Alex Wright begins to speak, but then Gene tells him they're out of time.
Gene ain't having nobody's shit today.
Nah, man, nah. He is probably very stressed today.
Maybe didn't get enough sleep.
Tell everybody to wrap up.
But we'll move on in the spirit of Mean Gene here to get to the next thing. Is the 8th match of the night. The Steiner brothers versus the Blue Bloods, namely Dave Taylor and Robert Eaton. Dave Taylor and Robert Eaton argue in the beginning of the match about who is going into the ring. They continue arguing before Rick Steiner bangs both their heads together. And at one point during the match, Eaton pushes Dave Taylor off the apron. So it looks like we have some tension brewing in the Blue Bloods. But we'll go ahead to the ending of the match. The ending of this match was kind of insane. Dave Taylor gets Rick in an electric chair drop position, and Eaton goes to the top rope, and he goes to crossbody Rick Steiner off of Dave Taylor's shoulders. But Rick flips over in midair on top of Bobby Eaton for the win.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
They recently redid this finish with Braun Breaker on one of the NXT shows recently. I remember seeing that. So I was like, oh, like father, like son. But yeah, I like that. It looked really good. They didn't botch it. That's a very easy thing to botch. It looked clean. But after the match, Dave Taylor slaps Bobby Eaton, and Eaton goes to walk away. But Taylor then continues attacking Eaton, but Eaton gets the advantage on him. And instead of seeing them finish fighting, we go to the camera where Gene is talking with the Steiner brothers. So I guess we don't really care if they're fighting.
They don't care enough. They're splitting up the Blue Bloods, but they don't care.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and interview the Steiners, but they're fighting back there somewhere. Who gives a shit? That's what they're saying. Whatever. So yeah, the breakup is happening now because I can't imagine they're going to be teaming up together next week.
No.
Which is fine. They weren't doing anything with the Blue Bloods anyway.
So during this promo, Rick Steiner says he's going to be a pumpkin eater at Halloween Havoc against the Harlem Heat. And then Scott Steiner gets on the mic and he reminds Rick Steiner that it's Fall Brawl, not Halloween Havoc.
Yeah, I got that on here too. Yep, Rick said the wrong pay-per-view. But yeah, to end it, Scott says that Fall Brawl, not Halloween Havoc, they are going to get radical. And this leads into our main event of the evening is Mongo McMichael with Deborah, along with Chris Benoit, Woman, Miss Elizabeth, the whole gang, versus Sting and Lex Luger. The match starts with all the men brawling. Mongo and Benoit work Luger over for a little bit. But during the match, we see Hogan coming through the crowd. And Mongo approaches Hogan, but Hogan backs Mongo off, telling him he doesn't have a problem with him. I wouldn't want beef with Mongo either. But this was all a ploy. The dastardly Hogan, this was a setup. Because Hall and Nash then jump on Mongo and the ref calls for DQ. The Outsiders ram Mongo's head to the ring post and then they spray NWO on his back. Scott Hall hits the Outsiders edge on Chris Benoit. Then they do the spray job as well. Nash jackknife Sting. Spray paint. Flair and Arn run out and they get the upper hand until Hogan sprays Flair in the eyes with the spray paint. And he even got some of that spray paint on Flair's bleached blonde hair. Can you believe that?
How disrespectful.
Is that going to come out? And at this point, fans are throwing shit all in the ring as the NWO starts posing. Some of them get drenched in soda. Some of them got nailed. This is the moment where Nash does catch one of the drinks. Very smooth.
Yeah, and then he plays it off because he is just that damn cool.
Hogan then spray paints the camera as they leave, proud of their handiwork. They walk to the announce booth, and then Hogan, he does a famous line that you see a lot of times in these WCW wrap-ups they do. This is when he does a "Here's Johnny" line. And then Hogan spray paints the WCW Nitro logo that's on the announce booth. Of course, he puts the NWO letters on there. And Hogan ends this whole deal with saying, anything less would be too civilized. He likes that line. That line was actually from, maybe, it might have been Thunder in Paradise, but it was from a TV show he was on.
Okay. Well, that definitely makes sense. That's a very Hogan thing to do.
Yeah, I have to see if I can find it. But I thought he only did that in the NWO, but apparently he'd been thinking that line over for years.
He's like, man, this is just so badass.
Now he's like, now I can do it. I'm a heel now. But I thought this was a hot ending to a so-so show. The NWO got great heat at the end. And you can see the fans getting more and more NWO merch in the crowd every week. We're seeing the takeover kind of happen with the fan base. And but for this match, though, it is kind of a bullshit ending.
Yeah, she had another no contest main event.
That's WCW for you. So now, does this mean Sting and Luger go? Or does it mean Mongo and Chris Benoit go? Who knows? We'll tune in next week. But for the show, there's some good cruiserweight action, good development with NWO. A lot of the matches weren't great, but that's kind of the template for Nitro.
So Nitro got a 4.2. So that's
4.2? And how much did WWF get? Okay.
Got $0.
Wow. So, of course, this will not go to our counts for the total, but that is it for August. Thank y'all for watching. Of course, next we're going to do September, but please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, all that good stuff. We'll see y'all in the next one. My name's Max.
I'm Jay.